and today we have Rob Colarusso.
Who do you have with you, Robert?
Today I got my team with me. We got Henry and Chris. We're MARLIN Beats. We're a producer team. We grew up here in Long Island. We have a studio out in Brooklyn. And right now we're trying to, put the pieces together to keep getting better every single day.
I would take exception to the use of the word trying to. I believe he's actually doing that. He's not trying to do that. He's actually doing that.
Doing it.
Peeve of mine.
Talk to me about where your love from hip-hop culture came from, the genre of the culture, and where you're hoping to take it.
I would say, personally, each of us have a little bit of a different upbringing in terms musically, but me personally, I grew up listening to a lot of reggae at a young age, which consists of a lot of percussion, so a lot of ethnic African music, that kind of genre. So with that, I naturally went to the drums and took advantage of my ear and my skill set with that, and I feel like as time went along, that progressed and transformed into our brand. And they each have their own story as well.
I think you should share that question with the gentleman in the back row.
What got you guys into hip hop, and just the culture in general?
Yeah. So personally, I got a bunch of brothers. So I have two older brothers, and we took in my cousin who's also older. So I had a bunch of different influences growing up, from just hearing them play what they play and listening. And my first hip-hop artist I probably listened to, probably 50 Cent, someone like that, yeah.
Okay, 03?
Yep.
Yeah, around
03,
that time. It was...
trying.
Yeah, I would say, kind of my parents listened to a lot of music, so, I went from, like, rock, just really everything, R&B, like even the radio hits, like the pop on the radio, and to me with hip hop, it was really just like, personally, it was the beats that the lyrics. I love lyrics and everything, but the beats for me was really what got me into it, because it's just a steady going, and it just hit me differently. You know what I mean? And that's what really kind of just drove me for just wanting to make beats.
It's perfectly said.
What's more important to you, the producer or the artist? I think there would be no Drake without 40.
Yeah,
I think that I think they're mutually exclusive to each other.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I get a translator?
Oh, pardon me, my elder statesman.
40, you're referring to the large beer?
No, we're not talking about 40
I'm
ounces
just fucking with you.
of malt liquor. We're talking about this. We're talking about is Noah who? Noah Shabib is 40.
Know your business.
Yes, you need to know a little bit of yours. So what we're talking about is 40 is, Drake, obviously.
I do know Drake.
So Drake is a famous hip-hop artist, and his producer, the person who gave him his sound and kind of made him Drake, is 40. And I think that producers, if you take Rakim, a famous hip-hop artist, there's no Rakim without Eric B. There's no...
I like your wealth of knowledge in this area. It's very nice.
100%. So
I'll give you that compliment.
Where you have the DJ used to drive the club. It used to drive what was cool. It used to drive what was popping. So as on the producer. So without those two things, what does the artist know what it sounds like? Yeah. So in your opinion, what drives the music? Is it the producer, or is it the artist, or is it, both tied together?
I think for the longest time that producers have been in the dark for for whatever reason, and we've always been getting the short end of the stick, so to speak, and people like Drake and these big superstars, their leverage is huge. So I would say, for us, we like being in the studio with the artist before we even do anything, because one, we've sent beats around, to artists and this and that, and they don't even get touched. And if you're in the studio with them, you have that personal relationship, and there's some kind of synergy that comes from that. So I believe that Drake and 40, it didn't just happen off of the sending back and forth. They were together, they figured out their sound, and then they kind of went at it. But I think it's a mutual. I think it's more both. So I would say you need the right state of mind going into a song, as a producer and an artist to make it work.
Yeah,
If that
I
makes
think
any
I think
sense.
the producer sets it like the vibe for the song, but there's got to be that healthy balance between producer and artist to make it really work.
Because I think ultimately the artist is getting inspired by hearing the beat, you know what I mean? So, because there's artists that will write before they hear a beat, and there's artists that will write on a beat. So it's like you said, it's both, because, you know, an artist could be writing his lyrics and have everything go and then find a beat to fit it, or he could hear a beat and be inspired by the beat to write the lyrics. So I think it's both, really.
Yeah.
And talking is the old man in the room who happens to have a favorite artist who is a well-known producer more than an artist. It's a symbiotic relationship in which the producer is much like the band in a band with a front man, and the front man is the artist. Producers have a whole lot of value, but also because they work with so many different musicians, they can't be the star. They have to be the back end. It's like the guys who supply the starters to Ford Motor Company. It's Ford Motor Company and they supply the starter. But without the starter, the car wouldn't work. It's the same thing.
Right.
And the producer has the gift of listening to the artist and saying, okay, that's good. How can I make it better? Where most artists think their shit is perfect when it comes out of their mouth. So the producer gets the chance to touch it up. But the producer is the other side of the equation, not the artist, more the mechanic,
Yeah.
more the
That's a
labor end of the scenario.
That's a fact. 'Cause
Todd Rundgren, by the way.
I gotta look him up.
Hall & Oates and everybody else. Todd Rundgren.
Because when you look
Meatloaf album, Bat Out of Hell. Todd Rundgren, producer.
when you look at producers like him, he was the driving force behind so many great artists. When the great artist only has a certain amount of time on top. Like if you look at a Quincy Jones, I mean, that's about 50 years of just killing people.
Stardom. Yeah.
Just hit after hit after hit after reinvention of himself and changing his sound so many times, to the fact he's in his 40s and 50s making Michael Jackson albums.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
How is your sound evolving from where you first started out to now? Like, what makes you better? What are you taking from to become better at your craft?
Yeah. So one thing that, you know, like we said, we've been doing the music for like 3-4 years, but seriously for 1 year probably. So in that time, you know, we've come across a lot of different artists. Like, you know, you'll come across, you know, the guys that are heavy influenced by like the trap and kind of this newer age, like the Lil Uzi Vert and you know, Travis Scott and that sort of thing. And then also you have your pop based artists, which is more, you know, more dance, more poppy kind of, you know. So you get like different sides of the puzzle here, because it's like once you establish your sound as a producer, like we thought our sound was, you know, just trap, but then we realized that what if we have people come in that don't do trap? Like, then what? Are we just stuck and then we lose a client? Like,
It's like
no.
New York drill type sound.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. So it was important for us to be versatile and to be able to diversify our sound. But I would just say the more artists we work with from different genres of music, the more our sound evolves, because it's just like it's within the mechanics of it, like you were saying.
But I would also guess that there is a niche where you are most comfortable and that you would prefer to work in. But that's okay. But as a commercial enterprise, you have to be able to help everybody who walks in the door. And that's what you're saying. And that's valid. But that's an education in music. Music is, for lack of a better word, math.
Yeah.
So the math works. If you understand the math, you understand the music, that's it. I understand music to hear it and to sing it and to do that. I don't understand. I can't write. I can't do any of that. But music is math. So when you get your degree in mathematics, you can apply it to any genre. And most of the time, the artist has a way that they want to hear it, that they say, this is it. And Barry, you're in the room, so I'm going to bring it in. It's with all artists, even artists who design clothing for a living. They have an opinion of how their clothing should be displayed. They have an opinion of how their sound should be run. The job of the producer is to maximize that penetration into the market. The producer is a commercial application of the art. That's what they do. Their job is to get that art to sell.
You just perfectly equated business to what he's doing in music. You got to slow that down.
I'm not real happy with the use of the word perfect. That's a high fucking order.
That was really good, man.
I did a decent job.
Yeah, it was pretty damn
I
good.
was in my flow.
If you can kind of bring it down for the people listening, and so they can take it home with them when they leave.
And that's a good observation.
On what you
Trev.
said.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. It's just that the producer's job, and by the way, this is hindsight at 63 years old. When you're a kid, you think the producer is the guy hanging out in the studio. The producer's job for an artist is to take the artist, slap him in the face a couple of times, like Moonstruck, say, snap out of it. This shit won't sell like this. Just change this, tweak this, do this, and it'll be marketable. It'll be received. Artists are not built that way. Artists are built to create. You see that pretty piece of art back there? My sister did that art. Her name's Suprina. She only uses my last name. My sister has been doing art for 65 years. Sorry, 55 years. She did her first art at 10 years old. That's the only piece I've ever bought from her because the rest of her shit scares me. Okay? I love this piece. That's 1 in 55 years because she doesn't have a producer. No one's helping her market her art. She's out there swinging the bat with her own art. It's the same in music.
That's a fact, because probably, in my opinion, top 5 greatest rappers of all time is Biggie, right?
Yeah,
and
gotta be.
the Biggie that came out of Bed-Stuy rapping in Brooklyn was not marketable, even in hip hop, until he met Diddy. Puffy,
yeah.
Sean Combs,
Down, yeah.
whoever you want to call him. Until he met that person to say, you put this juicy sample on here, and this is going to go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Until he met somebody to match his flow up with the beats for what was happening right now, there was no business transaction to be made. Now, I ask you this question because I want to double back. When you listen to producers like Timbaland
Mm-hmm.
and Pharrell
Mm-hmm.
in Swiss Beats, they have a distinct sound to who they are. Yeah, they can go with the times and they can do all that, but when you listen to a Just Blaze track, when Jay-Z's on that track, or anybody else, you know Just Blaze made that track, even if it's a New York drill beat, even if it's a Georgia trap sounding beat.
You know.
Do you think that you're developing a distinct sound that when people listen to it, they know? Like, for example, when Scott was in Seating Solutions, Scott built that seat.
You know.
Like, that's
Yeah.
a Scott
Like
Suprina seat.
Yeah,
Do
like-
you guys think you're developing that distinct sound? Like, when I hear a Pharrell beat,
You know.
I knew that was a Pharrell beat no matter, even if it's that time.
Is that a good thing?
That's a phenomenal thing. When you can adapt from generation to generation, genre to genre, and you can take what it is but still have your little seasoning on there. Do you think that you guys are developing that? Because you guys are still very young and
Yeah.
pups in the game.
Yeah.
Do you think you're developing your niche, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a huge goal of ours is to, and we know it's not going to happen overnight. That's the biggest thing with a lot of these cats. Like they don't give it time. So we feel like, and a good example is like Timbaland. When you hear, the wooden or the wood.
You
and
can
the,
go from Nelly Furtado
Yeah.
to the most gutter of trap music in the world.
and
Yeah.
So like, it's pretty interesting because then you get people like DJ Khaled who they don't really make the beat, so to speak.
But the energy.
They're in charge of putting him here, her here.
Mhm.
So that's like in technical terms what a producer is, and like we're just getting into that. We're beat makers, you know what I mean? We're instrumentalists, like we're behind the instrumental and behind the beat, but we're also learning how to orchestrate and actually produce like a project, a full blown, piece of art. So we're in the middle of. I mean, if you guys want to talk about just like our tape that we're in the middle of.
Yeah. We're working on a producer tape where it's all of our beats, and we're getting a bunch of artists that we work with or that we find. Right now it's a lot that we know personally. So we want to have like a track, like a 10 to 12 track project with everything produced by us with the artists that we like, and so that's what we're working on right now, and that is kind of showing the part where it's like, yeah, we can make the beats, but we could also get the artist, get the studio time, make sure everything gets back in time, and
We're taking it all into our hands.
Yeah.
We're making sure that
Because usually it's
we're
just
following
sending
through
the
on
beat.
everything. Yeah,
Usually it's sending the beat and then the artist gets it and then they go on and do it. But we're taking the time to actually get the artists that we want, picking the beats that we want, making it sound the way we want.
Setting up stew time to get it recorded right, finding the engineer to get it mixed and mastered correct. So
And I think with that like as we continue to do that and work at it, like that is developing kind of our sound, our niche, so to speak. Because there's been a few guys that have said like, I know you guys did this one just because, you know, off of whatever it may be. And we're just starting to get into that. So, like, we're grateful to be in that state. But, like, we need to really develop our sound more. So
but that takes time.
Exactly.
You have to recognize that.
But
it's nice that you brought up because you have to have the goal of establishing yourself as somebody with something. You have to bring something to the party, and that's something you can bring.
Facts. So, in terms of the business side of it, you got to put food on the table. You got to make money while still getting better at your craft. I equate it to a lot to what you do. Like, you may put out a seat or product that is not 100% there yet, but you know you have to, like, for example, your son came in the other day and was talking about the old way you used to do things. Dad, you just got to get it out, sell it, and then fix it while it's out. And you said, son.
Excuse me, I'm stunned by the beauty that just walked into the room.
How you doing?
Hi, honey. I think there's a thing, I was talking to Kurt before about white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
There is a privilege that I experienced recently, and the privilege to me is when you're these young guys and you're coming up and you're building your business, and I don't care what support you're getting or anything else, it is not the same as where I sit today after having sold my first business, and I have the privilege to take that product, the Heirloom, and build it until it's perfect to launch it. That's like corporate American privilege where you know, what the Tesla comes out with a new battery for a car and they don't launch it until it's perfect. I ran my seating business and I launched concepts when they were concepts because I needed to pay the rent, or I needed to make payroll, or he needs to make beats because he needs to make beats because rent's due, or something like that. So there is a certain privilege that comes with putting in the time and accumulating the funds and then sitting there and realizing I can do this like a real person. I don't need to put it out now and wait for the third rendition to do it perfectly. That is such a blessing. It's scary. And one of my goals through doing what we're doing through the podcast, and by the way, I love having you here. I love hearing you speak.
We're glad to be here, man.
I see.
It's an honor.
I feel your grandfather in the room, and that's special to me. So I'll say that. I'll try not to tear up.
Me too, man.
It's good. Where's your mojo tattoo? What do you got?
Right here, man.
There you go.
Well, you got to explain to the audience.
Mojo. So his grandfather mentored me for years and years and years and actually showed me how a man should behave. And when he passed away, I decided that Joe was gone and what I needed in life was mojo. So mojo to me is what was missing, but in fact, he's here. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's when people say to you, you know, it's even for me living every day and knowing that my dad runs through my veins. People don't die. People live on forever if you wish them to live forever. That's the reality of the situation. People live through by you carrying on the way they would carry on. And if you get to have a mentorship where the man shows you how to live your life will get better. That's part of what this podcast is. That's part of what extending it to my friends and family are. Colarussos are my family. They always will be my family. But that's as beautiful as it gets.
And you talk about his grandfather. At one point in every podcast we've ever done, or in a day of work that we've ever had, your grandfather pops up for about 5 to 20 minutes a day. Not every other day, a day, your grandfather pops up.
You know, there's a thing, and I'll share it because I think it's fair and I think it's profound. When you are a person who has not had the exposure in his life to a person like Joe Colarusso was, and he comes into your life when you're in the pitfalls of bad things that can happen in your life, the appreciation level is magnified. somebody came in and saved you. Where people who don't need to be saved may not appreciate having that same person in their life. And that was the specialness of the relationship. That was the beauty of what that was. And I share that, and it's a wonderful thing, and it affects my life. I mean, I said to him, and Lisa just walked in, my wife just walked in, but I said to Robbie that my wife and Joe had a special relationship outside of my relationship with Joe. They just had this fucking love that was, I'm here for you.
What I learned, from Joe, Robbie, that was his son. But what I learned from Joe was how someone loves someone, no matter what they've done, who they are, no judgment. He just loved. He was just a good human being,
Fire. And Trev, let me interrupt, because the point is, when you've learned that, then you can be who I am now, and you can take somebody like yourself and offer them love and be comfortable with it. You could take somebody like Robbie, and we don't know each other that well, but I think he knows I'm here for him. And that's all I want him to know. If he wants, and by the way, therefore I'm here for you guys. If he vouches for you, that's good enough for me, and then I support my group. But that's, like I said to Kurt before, this is now family extended. That's what this world should be. That's what we should be doing. That's what this podcast is about. And that's why I had you on Blindsided. You don't know what you're getting into. You don't need to rehearse this life. You need to just live your life. You need to get on camera and say what you feel and let it be what the hell it is. And then work it out from there. But people don't want to have these conversations. They don't want to share their tears. They don't want to get emotional on camera. I do want to get emotional because I'm tired of not being emotional.
Something that I never met your grandfather.
Yeah.
But the first time I ever met Scott, and he was talking about his how he had to kind of get himself out the hole he created. He said your grandfather sat him down and said, here's what you got to do. Yeah. First thing is, you can never not listen to the advice I give to you.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
And
that's the one rule.
If you ever ask me for advice and you don't take it, you can never ask again. Yeah. That was genius. I was like, listen, you fucking idiot. If you won't take my advice, I'm not talking to you.
And then, the second thing your grandfather said was, if I'm gonna teach you something, you have to pick one thing. Focus on one thing, right?
When I went broke, he said, if you're gonna come back, pick one thing that you think is not over attacked, too many people in it, that you could do well. Pick one thing and focus on that. That's why I had this idea years ago. Your grandfather told me, if you have an idea and it's not a seat, fuck it. We're not talking about it. You can't do it. You can't do shit with it. So I had the idea quite a while ago, and I wasn't allowed to do it. Before he passed, I said, can I look at a non-seating idea? He said yes, and I started.
But I think that goes hand in hand with you. It would be, you got to kind of take that same advice.
Yeah.
Focus is the key to your success. Focus and passion.
Actually, it's do the work. If you do the work, it comes.
You have the passion.
You have to work at it.
Do the work speaks to when you said I'm trying to. You're not trying to. You're fucking doing it, and it is a critical difference. You and your team. Are you going to do this? Kurt, get involved. Are you going to do this?
Yeah.
Kurt went in a fucking minivan to have a career in music and did it.
Yeah.
Regardless that every stop they said, you're not going to do this, he did it.
Yeah. What I'm learning from being around Scott is his passion is paced. Did I say that right? His passion is paced. He believes in jumping off the building, but making sure you can land on your feet, because you got to take the chance. You got to bust your ass to get it done. You have to work. You have to do everything, but you got to also believe that you're going to land on your feet. The belief is what? Scott, what would you say?
Well, I want to add what your grandfather taught me, and what he really taught me that made the difference is being a good person is supported by an energy that I don't even care to explain. That I don't care to try to explain to people who are not open to it. You're open to it. Being a good person, every time I speak to you on the phone, I feel loved. I don't feel like, hi, how are you? I feel embraced talking to you.
Too.
You think that's a given. You think people come loaded with that. They do not. That's your parenting. That's your grandfather. But you have that. So you're going to be supported. So trust in that. When you said jump off the building, you know why I jump off the building? Because I will be caught. It's the truth of it. And people who sit there and look at it and go, I'm not jumping off the building because there's, I don't see a way that I'm going to be okay and everything else. And how is your life?
You just shot yourself.
And how's that working for you? And when's the last time you were thrilled?
Yeah.
I'm thrilled regularly. I mean, Trevor, I'll say it about you again. It's so wonderful, the people that I've met, the podcasts that we have, the people in the room. We didn't get the podcast started because we were having too much fun just eating and talking and bullshitting.
How does the business work? How are you guys going to, penetrate the market with your music and have your sound heard by the masses? And have other rappers and musicians in general want to buy into you guys are like a stock. They need to buy into your sound. What's the plan?
I mean, I think part of it is like we were talking about before, finding that sound where it's like the artists, want to come and want to use our beats because of, who we are, or, the connection that we had when we were in the studio and stuff like that, where it's like not just come here just because they need beats, but because they actually like the work that we do, they like who we are. And I think that is one of the ways that we're going to be able to, get out there, because, we're going to come different, and, we want people to like us and not,
We want them to really like our product and like what we put out, and just come back because of that, not because we're someone came into the studio with some name. What?
You don't want them to like you. You want them to need you.
Yeah.
Because like Trev was saying when I was listening from the start, I'm not going to say Drake wouldn't be Drake without 40, because he could rap over any beat. He's one of the best to ever do it, just like Jay-Z is. But Drake, he'll tell you he needs 40 because he created that nostalgia when you hear his music. Facts. So you don't want them to like you. You're not trying to earn them. What you doing, I don't want to take over the podcast, but what you're doing is what you're going to be doing, whatever, regardless if nobody's listening. If you're like me when it came to music, I was going to make music even if I never dropped this. That was what I was going to do. So you don't need anybody to like you. We're not trying to earn anybody's like here.
Nah, it's not about like.
You just doing what you do. You need them to need you. You want them to need you because, I need one of their beats because when the 808 hits, it make my speakers go like this.
Yeah. But don't you think in the beginning that it requires having an open studio and inviting people in and saying, we'll work with you?
Without a doubt.
Because what I think happens, and I think it's more common in artists than producers, most artists lack confidence. And if they can come to the studio and feel supported, and by the way, you don't need to produce everybody the same. You just need to be there for them the same. And everybody's not going to drop a hit. Some people are going to be the bread and butter that pay the rent, and other people are going to be your all-stars that make your sound. But I could tell you that any of the big producers, who were you saying before?
Like
the old
Timberland,
Motown guy?
Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones has produced a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And no one ever heard.
Nah.
Yep.
But then when you describe his sounds, you describe it in a certain way with his hits.
Oh, yeah.
That should be your aspiration. Support everybody and know when you're doing your sound. What happens with people that is not business is, I don't love every seating job I ever built, but the ones I didn't love allowed me to stay alive long enough to build the one I loved. It's a math game. It's all math. The sound is math. The reality is math. Produce for people to help them at whatever level they're at. Get that reputation. Come to our studio. We'll treat you right. We'll help you find what's best for you. Then when you hit your sweet spot, kill it. Sorry, Trev, I'm going to use your word. Kill it. Go in there and
Validated.
impress them so well that they walk out going, that was fucking unbelievable.
Yep.
And that's your sound. But you can't do only your sound or you won't live to harvest. You must live to harvest. So it's a math equation. Keep your studio full. Know when you have a home run. Hit that home run and capitalize on that home run.
Is there ever a point where it's possible to burn out and it could actually damage what you have going on?
How old are you?
23. 23.
I'm 63. I got my shit together about 15 years ago.
Not really.
So believe me, if you feel like you're
Not
stumbling now,
Yeah.
you got time.
you got time.
You can
exactly.
stumble a little more.
That's
So
the stuff that makes
don't
it
it-
worth it, guy. That's the
And
stuff.
by
the
the way-
hard stuff.
Yeah.
The
But
stuff
it's-
you're going through. If you stick with it and
But
you
look,
keep doing it, okay, you're not trying, you're doing. You let go of the fear
Right.
of it because I can feel you. I feel people. I feel your fear. Almost.
Well, you have heat on you.
Yeah,
You have a
and
timeline
you're,
on you,
yeah, and
right?
you're a little anxious about it. You got to believe because we manifest everything. Everything
believes
you
in that.
believe, you put out there, okay? You got to own it. I own my stuff.
And by the way, the thing that I say to you is when I started to be successful, and it's from Joe, you take every client and you treat them like they're a special client and you do the best that you can for them. There's honor in that. Honor will carry you forward. You have a young girl who comes in and says, I'd like to produce this, and you go, I don't know what the hell this is, and you sit there. You will learn something from that production. You will learn something. She will pay you for the help you've given her. Your business will prosper, and you will learn something. And it may not be something you quite enjoy doing, but it may be necessary that you did that. And that's how you get from A to B. That's how you keep moving forward.
I want to, because you made an amazing point right there. In the last podcast I did with them, I was speaking of a friend, well, a acquaintance who owns, he does shows, and now he's a multimillionaire, same age as me. I'm not saying my age. A lady never tells her age, but he's the same age as me. He's a multimillionaire from throwing shows. He also manages artists, but he was like, this is small beans to my show business. So how he started was he booked an artist named Wiz Khalifa before he was popping. And then Wiz Khalifa came to the city, gave him a suite in the best hotel in the city. This is a dude who, like me, would probably get $1,500 for a show, but he felt like he was getting $1 million for that show at that time. Yeah. So Wiz Khalifa does the show, ends up being Wiz Khalifa, making black and yellow smash, you know. And then Wiz Khalifa is friends with a guy named Kendrick Lamar, and a guy named Kendrick Lamar is friends with a guy named J. Cole. And all they said was, yo, Wiz said, these dudes in Texas are the only people you should deal with. So when Kendrick Lamar becomes Kendrick Lamar and he has to do a tour stop in that city, guess what he did? Hey, I heard from Wiz that you the guy. And then Kendrick is like, yo, they treated me like gold. So he told J. Cole, and now they're the biggest promotion team. Well, Rock Nation bought them out. That's how big they are. It's crazy. They're the biggest promotion. But that's all because, like he said, he doesn't know who they are at the time, but he treats them like a top A-list client, gives them the same respect as he would Jay-Z at the time, you know? So
yeah, but what I'm saying is that's a self-respect thing.
Yes.
My craft is my craft. I'll deliver you my best work, and good things will come. And that's the moral of the story. And I'm going to smack you if you lose heart or you lack faith in yourself or you lose momentum. It's not a short road. It's not a sprint. It's not a, steal the ball and you're a superstar. It's a put the ball in the basket 300 times.
Do the work.
Do the work. That's what it is. And that's the thing that's amazing to me, that I survived long enough that I'm starting to understand. I get the biggest kick out of when you look at me or when you leaned over Kurt and you said, listen to him. That I'm saying shit that's accurate and true sometimes blows my own mind. I think in this society you'll see it every day. Guys who buy a nice house, get a good job, get a good opportunity, and buy a nicer house, get a better job and a better opportunity and buy 3 houses. And in the end, are no happier than they were in the first house.
Yeah.
If you are progressing up the ladder of financial earnings and you are not progressing at the same time to your happiness, it should cause pause. You should say, what am I doing? My mortgage is now 4 times what it was. Yes, I make that money, but my mortgage is 4 times what it was. How come I'm not any happier? And if you, let me tell you what makes me happy is this. This makes, meeting Kurt, having a conversation with Kurt is the highlight of my day. The highlight of my day. And I really enjoyed meeting you. I feel a closeness to him. It's somebody that I can discuss something with who has a commonality despite his whatever age he is and 30 years less than me, whatever that may be. That's a delight. I enjoy this. Seeing my old friend Robbie, who I played ball with in his driveway day after day, hour and hour, till he got so much better than me that I just stopped showing up. Those are the things that make me happy. Those are the things that are what you live your life for. But to do this, to have him on and have him have an experience, I'm sure he's going to get off mic and go, that was cool. I don't know that, but I expect that.
Yes.
It is cool. And to have everybody participate, to have Kurt sit down and share his heart, to do me a solid, to do the right thing by me, to help a friend of mine that I said is important to me. If the world outside of this room worked that way, what a wonderful place it would be.
Amen.
Is it at your lowest point? Because you talk about, like, you know, you've been to a low point and seen it reverse, but like, what do you, like, I think I know the answer to this, but would you trade ever being in that situation?
What do you mean?
Like, would you?
For me, and somehow I feel it was destined to be this way. When I was 23, and Rob, your father will attest to this, I knew everything. And then the world took me and slammed my head into the wall for about 7 years, until it took me 7 years to realize I indeed did not know everything. So for Scott Suprina, it was necessary to go through that education, to wake up to the fact that I needed to change. The amazing part of the story is that when I was ready to change, and what they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.